Captain Han Wu pressed his hands against the control panel as another asteroid crashed into their ship. The cargo hauler's steady promise shook like an old building in an earthquake. His 12 crew members held onto their seats as sparks flew from broken cables above their heads. "Captain, the hull is cracking on level 3, shouted his engineer Kehoe from across the bridge. Sweat ran down his face as he worked to fix the damaged systems. Han Wu looked out the front window at the dangerous asteroid field around them. Rocks the size of buildings floated past their ship. Some were as big as cities. The Kepler 442 system was known for being one of the most dangerous places to fly a ship. But it was also the fastest way to reach the Vorthak colonies. The Vorthak people had hired Han Wu and his crew 3 months ago. They needed supplies badly. Their enemies had surrounded their planets and no one else was brave enough to make the dangerous trip. The pay was good, but Han Wu knew they might die trying to help these alien people. "Sir, we have a problem," said Young Mi, his navigator. She was only 25 years old, but she was the best pilot Han Wu had ever seen. Her fingers moved quickly across the sensor controls. "I'm getting a distress signal from the asteroid field." Han Wu walked over to her station. On the screen, he could see a small blinking light in the distance. The signal was weak and kept cutting in and out. "What kind of ship is it?" he asked. Young Mi shook her head. "I don't know, Captain. The computer can't identify it. The design is completely unknown, but I'm picking up life signs." Han Wu felt his stomach tighten. Helping unknown aliens in this dangerous place could get them all killed. The hegemony forces controlled most of this space. They were the powerful alien empire that ruled over hundreds of worlds. Humans were still considered weak and unimportant by most alien species. The hegemony ships patrolled these asteroids looking for smugglers and rebels. If they found Han Wu's ship here, they might destroy it without asking questions. The cargo they were carrying was worth millions of credits, and his crew was depending on him to get them home safely. "Captain," Young Mi said quietly, "the translation system is picking up some words. They're saying something about children and sanctuary." The word children hit Han Wu like a punch to the chest. He had seen what happened to alien children when the hegemony captured them. They were taken away to be trained as soldiers or used for experiments. Some were never seen again. Han Wu had grown up poor on Earth. His parents had worked in the factories that built starships for the rich alien companies. They barely made enough money to feed their family. When Han Wu was 16, alien soldiers had come to his neighborhood looking for young humans to recruit. His older brother Jun-ho had hidden Han Wu in the basement, while the soldiers searched their house. Jun-ho was taken instead. Han Wu never saw his brother again. "Set course for the distress signal," Han Wu ordered. His crew looked at him with surprise. "Captain, that will take us deeper into the asteroid field," warned his security chief Namgil. "The rocks are getting thicker in that direction. One wrong move and we'll be crushed." "I know the risks," Han Wu replied. "But we're going anyway. Battle stations, everyone." The steady promise turned toward the signal. Young Mi guided the ship carefully between the floating rocks. Each turn was dangerous. One mistake would smash their ship into pieces. After 20 minutes of careful flying, they found the source of the distress signal. Wedged between 2 massive asteroids was a ship unlike anything Han Wu had ever seen. The hull was made of some kind of crystal material that seemed to glow with its own light. The ship was beautiful even though it was clearly dying. "Look at that design," whispered Dr. Sujin, their medical officer. She was staring at the alien vessel with amazement. "I've never seen anything like it. The craftsmanship is incredible." Cracks ran along the crystal hull and atmosphere was leaking out into space. Through the transparent sections, they could see figures moving inside. The beings looked tall and graceful, nothing like the brutal hegemony soldiers. "Can we get them out?" Han Wu asked his engineer. Kehoe studied the readings on his screen. "Yes, but we'll have to use the salvage beam. Their ship is too badly damaged to dock with ours normally." "Do it." The rescue took 2 hours. The salvage beam carefully pulled the survivors from their dying ship into the Steady Promise cargo bay. Han Wu watched through the security cameras as his crew helped the aliens aboard. There were 15 survivors in total. Most were adults, but 5 appeared to be children. The aliens were tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that seemed to change color from silver to deep blue. Their eyes were large and seemed to hold great intelligence and sadness. Han Wu went down to the cargo bay to meet them. The alien leader stepped forward and spoke in a musical voice. The translation computer worked hard to understand the strange language. "We are grateful for your kindness, human," the alien said. "I am called Kaelnos. We are the people known as Eternal. I'm Captain Han Wu. This is my ship. You're safe now. Kaelnos bowed his head. We have wandered the stars since before your species learned to make fire. The hegemony hunts us because we refuse to give them our children. Hanwu felt anger rising in his chest. They want your children? The young ones possess special abilities. The hegemony would take them and turn them into weapons for their wars. They would drain the life from them until nothing good remains. Kaelnos' voice was filled with ancient grief. We are the last of our people in this part of the galaxy. Hanwu looked at the eternal children. They stayed close to the adults, their large eyes watching everything with curiosity and fear. They reminded him of human children, innocent and trusting. Where were you trying to go? Hanwu asked. Anywhere the hegemony cannot follow. But there are few such places left in the galaxy. Hanwu made a decision that would change everything. He thought of his lost brother Junho. He thought of all the children who had been taken by cruel alien empires. He thought of the promise he had made to himself long ago to protect those who could not protect themselves. Then you're under human protection now, Hanwu said firmly. We'll find you a safe place. Kaelnos stared at him with surprise. You would do this for strangers? Your species barely knows us. That doesn't matter, Hanwu replied. What matters is that you need help and we can give it. As the steady promise left the asteroid field with its new passengers, Hanwu did not know that his simple act of kindness would soon shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. The planet Harmony's edge looked like a red and brown jewel against the black of space. Captain Hanwu guided the steady promise through the atmosphere toward the human colony of New Busan. The eternal refugees pressed against the viewing windows in wonder as they saw their first human world. It's beautiful, whispered one of the eternal children, a young one named Silwen. Her skin shifted from silver to pale blue as she watched the landscape below. Hanwu smiled. Wait until you see the colony. The people there are good. They'll help you. New Busan sat in a valley between two mountain ranges. The buildings were simple but strong, built from local stone and metal. Gardens grew between the houses where children played and families worked together. Smoke rose from chimneys and workshops. The colony had been built 15 years ago by humans who wanted to make their own way in the galaxy. They had chosen this difficult planet because no other alien species wanted it. The weather was harsh and the ground was hard to farm. But humans were stubborn people who never gave up easily. Governor Li Na waited for them at the landing pad. She was 50 years old with gray hair and hands that showed years of hard work. Her face was kind but tough. She had helped build this colony from nothing. Another rescue, Hanwu? She asked as they walked toward the colony center. You know we're already hiding 12 families from the hegemony raids. These are different, Lena. They're called the Eternal. They have children the hegemony wants to steal. Lena stopped walking and looked back at the eternal refugees following behind them. Kaelnos walked with dignity despite his exhaustion. The other adults stayed close to their children, protecting them with their bodies. Children? Lena asked quietly. The young ones have special abilities. The hegemony wants to turn them into weapons. Lena's face grew hard. She had lost her own son to hegemony recruiters 10 years ago. Then they stay. We'll find room. The people of New Busan welcomed the Eternal with open hearts. Families offered spare rooms in their homes. The colony doctor, an elderly woman named Dr. Park, examined the refugees and treated their injuries. The children shyly accepted toys and food from human children who wanted to be friends. Kaelnos was amazed by the kindness. Your people show generosity to strangers. This is rare in the galaxy. Not really, said Governor Lena. Most humans help each other. We learned long ago that we're stronger together. Over the next few weeks, the Eternal began to settle into life in New Busan. Kaelnos proved to be incredibly intelligent. He understood human technology quickly and began helping to improve the colony's power systems. The other Eternal adults found ways to contribute too. They were skilled at growing food and working with metals. The Eternal children became friends with the human children immediately. Despite being from different worlds, they played the same games and laughed at the same jokes. The young Eternal named Silwen became best friends with a human girl named Bora, who was the same age. Look what Silwen can do, Bora said excitedly to her mother one day. She pointed to where Silwen was making small lights dance in the air with her hands. The lights moved in beautiful patterns like tiny stars. The human adults watched with wonder but not fear. They treated the Eternal children's abilities as natural gifts, like being good at music or mathematics. Jin Ho, the colony's school teacher, was fascinated by what the Eternal could teach human children. They're showing our kids new ways to think about science and mathematics. It's incredible what they can learn from each other. But their peaceful time was coming to an end. 3 months after the Eternal arrived, long-range sensors detected ships approaching the system. Lots of ships. Young me, who had stayed on Harmony's edge to help with the colony's defenses, ran into the command center where Governor Li Na was meeting with Kael'nos and Hanwu. "Governor, we have a problem," Young me said, breathing hard. 20 hegemony warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're heading straight for us. Through the colony's communication system, a cold alien voice spoke to everyone. "Colony designation New Busan. You are harboring enemies of the hegemony empire. You will surrender the Eternal refugees immediately, or face destruction." Governor Li Na walked to the communication console. Her voice was calm and clear as she responded. "This is Governor Li Na of the human colony New Busan. The beings under our protection are refugees seeking safety. Under galactic law, refugees have rights. You are not welcome in our system." The hegemony commander's response was swift and brutal. "You have 6 hours to surrender the Eternal. If you refuse, we will destroy your colony and take them anyway." Hanwu looked out the window at the families walking through the colony streets. Children were playing in the gardens. People were working in their shops and farms. They had built something good here, something worth protecting. "We need to prepare for battle," Hanwu said. "With what?" asked Dr. Park, who had joined the emergency meeting. "We have mining equipment and some old defense platforms." "They have 20 warships." Kael'nos stepped forward. "There may be a way. Our people possess knowledge of ancient technologies. If your people are willing to trust us, we might be able to strengthen your defenses." Governor Li Na didn't hesitate. "What do you need?" "Time and access to your power systems. The technology is complex, but it might give you a chance to fight back." For the next 6 hours, the entire colony worked together like never before. Eternal and human engineers worked side by side to modify the defense platforms. Kael'nos showed human technicians how to create energy shields that could stop plasma weapons. The Eternal children helped by using their abilities to test the new systems. Silwen and her friend Bo-Ra worked together to calibrate sensor arrays. Their combined human determination and eternal intuition created solutions that neither species could have achieved alone. As the deadline approached, the colony was ready. The defense platforms hummed with new energy. Shields surrounded the most important buildings. Every adult who could hold a weapon stood ready to defend their home. Governor Li Na made one final broadcast to the hegemony fleet. "This is our final answer. The refugees stay under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to come and take them." The first hegemony plasma beam struck the colony's shields 2 minutes later, but instead of burning through the defenses as expected, the energy was absorbed and reflected back at the attacking ships. The Battle of New Busan had begun, and the hegemony was about to learn that humans protected their friends with deadly determination. The ground shook as hegemony plasma beams struck the energy shields protecting New Busan. Governor Li Na stood in the command bunker watching the battle displays. Each impact sent ripples of light across the protective barriers that Kael'nos and the human engineers had built together. "Shields are holding at 90%, reported Young Mi from her sensor station. "The Eternal technology is working better than we hoped." War Commander Vex Thane of the hegemony fleet watched from his flagship as his weapons failed to break through the colony's defenses. He was a tall alien with gray skin and cold black eyes. He had conquered dozens of worlds for the hegemony empire. Never before had a small human colony resisted his fleet. "Increase power to all weapons," he ordered his crew. "These humans think their primitive shields can stop us." The bombardment intensified. 20 warships focused their firepower on the colony below. The shields flared brighter as they absorbed more energy, but they continued to hold. In the colony streets, human families stayed calm in their reinforced shelters, while their defenders prepared for the next phase of battle. Hanwu moved through the defense positions, checking on his people. The miners and farmers of New Busan had become soldiers overnight. They carried mining lasers converted into weapons and wore protective gear designed for asteroid work. "Captain," called out Bora's father, a man named Jae-sung who normally repaired farming equipment. "The Eternal children want to help fight. Should we let them?" Hanwu looked toward the shelter where the young Eternal waited with their human friends. Silwen and Bo-Ra stood together, both looking determined despite their fear. "What kind of help?" Hanwu asked. Kael'nos appeared beside them. His normally calm face showed deep worry. The children can sense the enemy ships through space. They might be able to guide our defensive fire more accurately. It's too dangerous, Hanwoo said. Captain, interrupted 12-year-old Minjun, one of the human children who had been learning from the Eternal. Silwyn showed me something in the old databases. The hegemony has a weakness we can use. Hanwoo knelt down to the boy's level. What kind of weakness? Minjun's eyes were bright with excitement and fear. Their whole command system depends on one central computer on their main ship. If we could damage that somehow, all their ships would be confused for a while. How do you know this? Asked Governor Lina, who had joined them. The Eternal databases have records going back thousands of years. They fought the hegemony before long ago. Silwyn helped me read the old battle reports. Young Silwyn stepped forward, her skin shifting from blue to silver with nervousness. The old records show weak points in hegemony ship designs, but someone would need to get very close to their flagship to hit the right spot. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the colony. The hegemony fleet had stopped its bombardment and was moving closer to the planet. They're deploying ground forces, Young Mi announced from the command center. 50 landing craft heading for the colony. War Commander Vex Thane had grown tired of the ineffective orbital bombardment. He would take the colony by force and capture the Eternal children alive. His ground troops were the best warriors in the hegemony army. They had never failed to capture their objectives. The landing ships touched down in the fields around New Busan just as the sun was setting. Hundreds of hegemony soldiers poured out, their armor gleaming in the dying light. They carried weapons that could punch through steel and shields that could stop most projectiles. But they had never fought humans who were truly angry. The first wave of hegemony troops expected to overwhelm the colony's defenses quickly. Instead, they found themselves facing tactics they had never encountered. Human defenders used the rough terrain to their advantage, appearing from hidden positions to strike before disappearing again. Young Mi had become the colony's defense coordinator during the months of preparation. She used everything the Eternal had taught her about energy manipulation to coordinate the human forces. Mining equipment became deadly weapons. Farming tools turned into traps for enemy soldiers. Squad 3, fall back to position 7, she ordered through her communicator. Squad 5, hit them from the left while they're distracted. The human defenders fought with a desperation and cleverness that shocked their attackers. Every street became a battlefield. Every building became a fortress. The colonists protected their homes and families with a fury that made the professional hegemony soldiers hesitate. But slowly, the enemy troops pushed deeper into the colony. Their superior numbers and equipment began to tell. Human defenders fell back toward the center of town, fighting for every meter of ground. In the command bunker, the situation looked desperate. Governor Lina watched the tactical displays as red enemy markers moved closer to the essential buildings where, running out of options, she said quietly to Hanwoo and Kaelnos that was when the Eternal made their choice. Kaelnos looked at his people gathered in the bunker. The adults and children who had fled across the galaxy to escape the hegemony were now safe in human homes. These humans had risked everything to protect strangers who had no way to repay their kindness. My people have made a decision, Kaelnos announced. We cannot stand by while those who protected us are hurt because of us. We will use our abilities to help win this battle. Kaelnos, you don't have to do this, Governor Lina said. Yes, we do. You showed us what honor means. Now we will show you what gratitude can accomplish. The Eternal children joined hands in a circle, their combined abilities reaching out across space itself. They touched something vast and ancient that slept in the darkness between stars. When they called, it answered. War Commander Vex Thane was preparing to claim victory when his fleet sensors detected something impossible. Massive energy signatures were approaching from deep space. Things moved toward his ships that defied every law of physics he understood. The creatures that emerged from hyperspace were made of living light and energy. They moved through the vacuum as easily as swimming through water. When they reached the hegemony fleet, they began to tear the warships apart with casual ease. In the space of 10 minutes, 20 hegemony warships became floating debris. War Commander Vex Thane found himself alone in a damaged escape pod, his mind broken by contact with forces beyond his comprehension. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The Eternal children collapsed from the effort, several falling into deep sleep from which they might never wake. As Kael'nos knelt beside them with tears of liquid silver streaming down his face, he made a promise that would bind two species together forever. Humans showed us mercy when we needed it most. From this day forward, the Eternal owe humanity a debt that can never be repaid. News of the Battle of New Busan spread across the galaxy, faster than any starship could travel. In the cantinas of distant space stations, alien traders whispered about the human colony that had destroyed an entire hegemony fleet. On civilized worlds, government officials studied the battle reports with growing amazement and fear. On the hegemony capital world of Nexus Prime, Supreme War Master Drakven stood before a massive holographic display showing the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. His scaled hands clenched into fists as he read the survivor reports. 20 of his best warships reduced to scrap metal by a human farming colony. "Explain this to me," he growled to his assembled commanders. The war room fell silent except for the hum of machinery. How did primitive humans defeat War Commander Vex Thane? Intelligence Master Chekton stepped forward nervously. He was smaller than the other hegemony officers, with pale green skin and large eyes that darted around the room. "Supreme War Master, our analysis shows the humans were helped by the Eternal refugees. They used abilities we do not fully understand. Then we capture more Eternal for study," Drakven declared. "Sir, our intelligence reports indicate the Eternal have scattered throughout human territory. They are now under the protection of the entire Terran Federation." Drakven's eyes glowed with cold anger. The hegemony had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years through fear and superior technology. No species had ever successfully challenged their authority. Now a race of upstart humans dared to defy them. "Then we destroy the Terran Federation," he said simply. "Mobilize every fleet. Call back our forces from the outer territories. It is time to teach the galaxy what happens to those who oppose us." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Kim Se-jun walked through the halls of the Terran Senate building. The blue marble planet below had changed much since humans first reached for the stars. Cities covered the continents, reaching up toward the sky like fingers of glass and metal. Admiral Cho Hee-Riem waited for him in the security briefing room. She was a veteran of many conflicts, with scars on her hands from her days as a fighter pilot. Her expression was grim as she activated the holographic display. "The hegemony is mobilizing everything they have," she reported. "Our spies count at least 500 warships gathering at their staging areas. This isn't a punishment raid, Mr. President. This is total war." President Kim studied the fleet positions on the display. Red markers showed hegemony forces moving from across their empire toward human space. The numbers were overwhelming. "How long do we have?" he asked. 4 months, maybe 5. "They're being careful this time. No more small fleets that can be destroyed by surprise." "What about our own forces?" Admiral Cho switched the display to show human military assets. The green markers were far fewer than the red ones. "We have maybe 50 real warships spread across our entire territory. Most of our vessels are cargo haulers and colony ships. We're not built for this kind of fight." President Kim walked to the great window that looked out over the rebuilt cities of Earth. Humanity had come so far from their early days of struggling just to survive on one world. They had built colonies on dozens of planets, established trading relationships with alien species, and earned a small but respected place in galactic civilization. Now all of that was threatened because they had chosen to protect refugee children. "Send a message to every human world, every colony, every trading station," President Kim ordered. "Tell them what's coming, and tell them it's time to collect every favor we've ever earned." The response was immediate and surprising. Human merchants had traveled to thousands of worlds over the past century. They had saved lives, delivered medicine to plague-stricken planets, and helped resolve conflicts between alien species. Now, as humanity faced extinction, those old debts came due. The Cathara Confederacy was the first to respond. Their ambassador, a tall being with crystalline wings, appeared on the communication screen in President Kim's office. "Humanity once mediated our civil war when we faced total destruction," Ambassador Crystal Song said in her musical voice. "We remember this kindness. Our stealth fleets will stand with you." The benthic kingdoms followed. Their deep space miners had been saved from pirates by human rescue ships years ago. Now they offered their massive industrial platforms and construction ships. Even species that had never formally allied with humanity began sending quiet messages of support. The Zephyrian traders remembered human honesty in business deals. The aquatic communes had not forgotten human doctors who had cured a plague that threatened their ocean worlds. But the most important message came from an unexpected source. Captain Hanwoo received it while helping to rebuild the damaged sections of New Busan. He was working alongside eternal refugees to repair buildings destroyed in the battle when his communication device chimed. The face that appeared on the screen was familiar to every human who had served in deep space. Commander Yu Tae-young was a legend among human military officers. He had spent 15 years building humanity's first true deep space navy in secret shipyards hidden throughout human territory. Han-woo, your rescue of the Eternal has changed everything, Tae-young said from the bridge of an unknown vessel. The galaxy is watching to see how this ends. It's time to show them what humans can really do when we're united. Behind Tae-young, through the bridge windows, Han-woo could see other ships, sleek vessels unlike anything in the current human fleet. These were not converted cargo haulers or mining ships. These were purpose-built warships designed with one goal in mind. The indomitable Will and her sister ships are ready for deployment. Tae-young continued. We've been building them using technology shared by our alien friends. Every species that humanity has helped has contributed something. Kythera stealth systems, benthic armor plating, Zephyrian energy weapons. And now, thanks to your eternal friends, we have capabilities the hegemony has never seen. The ship behind Tae-young moved into clearer view. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The hull seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy. Weapon systems were integrated so smoothly they looked like art rather than instruments of war. How many ships do you have? Han-woo asked. Enough, Tae-young replied. The hegemony thinks they're facing the same humans who begged for permission to leave Earth a century ago. They're about to learn how wrong they are. On Nexus Prime, Supreme War Master Drak Ven was reviewing the final preparations for his great fleet when his communications officer brought disturbing news. Sir, we're receiving reports from our forward scouts. Human ships have been detected near the border systems, but they're not like any human vessels in our databases. Drak Ven examined the fuzzy images captured by his scouts. The ships looked wrong somehow. Too advanced, too purposeful. Humans weren't supposed to have warships like these. Increase patrols along all borders, he ordered, and accelerate our attack schedule. Whatever the humans are planning, we will crush it before it can develop. But as his massive fleet prepared to launch the greatest military campaign in hegemony history, Drak Ven could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The humans had already surprised him once at New Busan. What other surprises might they have prepared? In the deep space between galaxies, ancient forces stirred. The eternal children had awakened things that had slept for millions of years. And those things remembered the taste of justice. Commander Yu Tae-young stood on the bridge of the indomitable Will as it emerged from hyperspace above Vanguard Station. Around him, 7 more ships appeared like ghosts materializing from another dimension. These were not the cargo haulers and mining vessels that most aliens expected from humanity. These were pure warships built for one purpose only. The hull of each ship seemed to shimmer with contained energy. Weapons that looked like works of art were integrated seamlessly into their design. The bridge crew moved with the precision of a symphony orchestra, each person knowing exactly what to do. This is Commander Tae-young broadcasting to all frequencies, he announced. This is humanity's answer to those who threaten our friends and families. We are no longer the species that asks permission to exist. We are the species that protects what we love. The message was heard across the galaxy. On distant worlds, alien beings stopped what they were doing to listen. In the halls of galactic governments, officials suddenly realized that humanity had become something they had not expected. But it was the hegemony scouts who got the biggest surprise. When they tried to scan the human fleet, their instruments gave readings that made no sense. The ships appeared to be in multiple places at once. Energy signatures flickered between dimensions. Weapon systems charged with power levels that should have been impossible. Supreme War Master Drak Ven received the scout reports with growing anger and confusion. What do you mean the ships exist in multiple dimensions? That's impossible. Sir, our best scientists cannot explain what we're seeing, reported Intelligence Master Kektan. The human vessels appear to be using technology that combines principles from dozens of different species. Some of it we've never seen before. The truth was more remarkable than even the hegemony could imagine. For 15 years, every species that humanity had helped had quietly shared their knowledge. The Kythera had taught humans how to bend light around their ships, making them nearly invisible. The benthic kingdoms had provided armor materials stronger than anything known to galactic science. The Zephyrian Empire had shared energy weapons that could strike through hyperspace itself, and the Eternal had given them something even more precious, the ability to work with forces that existed beyond normal physics. The first test of this new human fleet came at the Battle of Meridian Gate. 50 hegemony warships, the advance force of Drakven's Great Armada, encountered 8 human vessels near the border of human space. Military experts across the galaxy predicted a massacre. They were right, but not the way they expected. Commander Park Dong-hyun led the human defense force from the bridge of the cruiser Righteous Fury. He was a quiet man who had spent years learning from alien teachers. His crew included humans but also volunteers from a dozen species who wanted to stand with humanity. "All ships remember what we learned," he said calmly into his communicator. "We fight as one mind with many bodies." The hegemony fleet attacked with overwhelming firepower. Plasma beams that could melt asteroids lanced through space toward the human ships. But instead of striking their targets, the weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. The human vessels had learned to dance between dimensions. One moment they were solid matter that could be hit. The next moment they existed only as energy patterns that weapons could not touch. The eternal abilities, channeled through human technology, had created a fusion of capability that no single species could achieve alone. Young Me, now serving as tactical coordinator for the entire human fleet, watched the battle from her station on the indomitable Will. The years of working with the Eternal had taught her to see beyond normal space. She could sense the flow of energy between dimensions and guide the human ships through paths that existed only in mathematics. "Squad Alpha, shift to Dimension 7 and strike from the rear," she ordered. "Squad Beta, maintain solid form and draw their fire. Squad Gamma, prepare for hyperspace strike." The hegemony ships found themselves fighting an enemy that rewrote the rules of space combat with every moment. Human vessels appeared from impossible angles, struck with weapons that ignored shields and armor, then vanished before return fire could reach them. Commander Velkoth of the Hegemony Advance Fleet watched in horror as his ships were destroyed one by one. His instruments could not track the human vessels. His weapons could not hit targets that existed in multiple dimensions at once. In 12 minutes, his entire force was reduced to floating debris. Not a single human ship was lost. The message that followed was broadcast on all frequencies in every known language. "This is humanity's final warning to the Hegemony Empire. Withdraw from our space, release all prisoners taken from our worlds, and cease all hostilities. You have 24 hours to comply." Supreme War Master Drakven's response was swift and predictable. He accelerated his invasion plans and prepared to launch the full might of the hegemony against human space. 500 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled, began moving toward Earth itself. But something unexpected was happening across the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory at Meridian Gate had spread to every world. Alien species that had suffered under hegemony rule for centuries began to whisper about hope. Rebellions that had been crushed decades ago started to stir again. On the water world of Aquatica, the commune leaders who had been saved by human doctors years ago made a fateful decision. "The humans stood up to the hegemony for refugee children," said Elder Depthsinger to her council. "Now we must stand up for them." The industrial world of Forge Prime, where human traders had always dealt fairly, even when they could have cheated, began converting their factories to produce weapons instead of mining equipment. Even the proud warrior clans of the Razor Mountains, who had once dismissed humans as weak, remembered the human medics who had saved their children during the plague years. They sharpened their traditional weapons and prepared for war. President Kim Si-jun watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy with amazement. What had started as one man's decision to save refugee children had become something much larger. Humanity had earned friends through simple kindness, and now those friends were willing to risk everything to help. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the Eternal Archives," reported his communications officer. "It's encoded using mathematical principles we've never seen before." The message, when decoded, was brief but earth-shaking. "The Ancient Ones have awakened. They remember the old debts. When the final battle comes, humanity will not stand alone." As the hegemony's massive fleet prepared for its final assault on human space, forces older than galactic civilization itself began to stir in the deep void between stars. The galaxy was about to discover that some debts could never be forgiven, and some friendships would endure until the stars themselves grew cold. The sky above Nexus Prime turned black with starships. But these were not the expected human vessels coming to attack the hegemony capital. Instead, representatives of every species the hegemony had ever wronged materialized from hyperspace by the thousands. Captain Han Wu stood on the bridge of his old cargo hauler, the steady promise now upgraded with technologies he barely understood. Around him, the greatest fleet in galactic history assembled in perfect formation. Kythera phantom ships that could phase between dimensions, benthic kingdom world breakers that could crack planets, Zephyrian vessels that manipulated stellar radiation itself. "This is Captain Han Wu of the Terran Federation," he broadcast to the stunned hegemony homeworld below. "I'm here to collect on a debt." Supreme War Master Drakven watched from his command center as his instruments tried to count the ships surrounding his world. The numbers kept changing as vessels appeared and disappeared from sensors. His greatest fleet, 500 warships strong, seemed tiny compared to the armada that now filled his sky. "How many ships are there?" he demanded of his officers. "We cannot determine an exact count, Supreme War Master," Intelligence Master Kektan replied with a trembling voice. "Our sensors detect at least 10,000 vessels, but many exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously." But it was the arrival of the Eternal that truly shook the foundations of galactic civilization. Not the small group of refugees that Han Wu had rescued, but the entire Eternal nation. Ships of impossible beauty materialized around Nexus Prime, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight in patterns that spoke of technologies beyond current understanding. The voice of Kelnos echoed across all communication frequencies, translated into every known language. "We are eternal and we remember. We remember every kindness shown, every debt owed, every favor granted. Humanity showed us mercy when we were defenseless. They offered protection when they had nothing to gain. They honored friendship when others offered only exploitation." President Kim Si-jun's voice joined the broadcast from the approaching Terran Resolve. "Supreme War Master Drakven, you have built an empire on fear and cruelty. You steal children from their families. You enslave entire worlds. You destroy anyone who dares to ask for freedom. Today, that ends." The assembled fleet represented more than military might. It was the embodiment of something the hegemony had never understood. The power of genuine alliance built on mutual respect, rather than fear. Every ship in that vast armada was there because humanity had shown kindness to someone, somewhere. At some time, Elder Depthsinger of the Aquatic Commune spoke for her people. "Human doctors saved our children during the plague years. We do not forget." War Chief Stonefang of the Razor Mountain clans added his voice. "Human medics died protecting our wounded in the border conflicts. Honor demands we answer their call." Ambassador Crystal Song of the Kythera Confederacy concluded, "Humanity mediated our civil war when hatred blinded us to reason. They showed us the path to peace." Supreme War Master Drakven found himself facing a choice no hegemony leader had confronted in 1,000 years. His own massive fleet was outnumbered 20-1 by an alliance of species his empire had spent centuries oppressing. Worse, the enemy possessed technologies that made his weapons seem like primitive tools. But Drakven was a product of hegemony thinking. He could not imagine surrender, could not conceive of admitting weakness. "All ships prepare for battle. We will show the galaxy that the hegemony does not bow to threats." The battle that followed lasted exactly 17 minutes. The hegemony fleet attacked with everything they had: plasma beams that could burn through asteroids, gravity weapons that could crush starships, quantum torpedoes that could tear holes in space itself. For a moment it seemed like the assembled Allied fleet might be overwhelmed by sheer destructive power. Then the Ancient Ones arrived. They came from the deep void between galaxies, beings of pure energy and thought that had existed since before the first stars were born. The Eternal Children's desperate call during the Battle of New Busan had awakened them from their eternal sleep. Now they had come to witness something they had not seen in millions of years, a species that honored its debts above its own survival. The Ancient Ones did not fight the hegemony fleet. They simply existed in the same space, and reality bent around them. Hegemony weapons fired but struck nothing. Hegemony ships moved but went nowhere. Time itself seemed to slow around the ancient beings until the enemy fleet hung motionless in space like insects trapped in amber. President Kim Si-jun's voice cut through the stunned silence. Supreme War Master Drakvin, your empire is finished. But we are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. The terms were simple and absolute. The hegemony would release every slave, free every conquered world, and return every stolen child to their families. Their war fleets would be dismantled. Their weapons of mass destruction would be destroyed. Their leaders would stand trial for crimes against entire civilizations. And if we refuse? Drakvin asked, though he already knew the answer. Commander Yu Tae-young responded from the bridge of the indomitable will. Then the galaxy will watch as we demonstrate what happens when you threaten the children that humanity protects. The surrender was broadcast across the galaxy within the hour. The mighty hegemony empire, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, brought low not by superior firepower, but by the simple human concept that kindness creates bonds stronger than fear. As the Allied fleets began the work of dismantling the hegemony's war machine, Captain Han Wu stood in the observation deck of his old cargo hauler and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, new refugees would need protection, new worlds would require defense, and new friendships would be forged. Young Mi joined him at the viewing window. She had grown from a nervous navigator into one of the most respected tactical minds in the galaxy. What do we do now, Captain? Han Wu smiled as he watched eternal children playing with human youngsters in the ship's recreation area. Sil Wen and Bora had become inseparable friends, their laughter echoing through the corridors. The galaxy had changed because one man decided to help strangers in distress. Now we keep our promises, Han Wu said. We protect those who need protection. We help those who need help. We show the galaxy that some things are more important than power or profit. Kael'nos approached them, his ancient eyes bright with something that might have been hope. What my people gave humanity was small compared to what humanity gave us. You showed us that honor still exists in the galaxy. No, Han Wu replied. You showed us what we could become when we work together. The debt goes both ways. As the news of the hegemony's fall spread across the galaxy, a new age began. Not an age of human dominance, but an age of cooperation between species who had learned that kindness was not weakness, that mercy was not foolishness, and that protecting children was worth any sacrifice. The galaxy had discovered that humanity always honored a favor, and when pushed to defend what they loved, their justice could indeed tremble worlds.